Welcome back. We're still looking at the monkeypox healthcare in particular, but we're tying it down to the monkeypox situation and how we can move out and move beyond that. So, Dr. Bakare, I was going to ask you the question about the balance between discovery and communication as it is, so that there is no panic, because that's what there is right now. I mean, based on what the two commissioners have said.
Thank you very much. For those who were following like the Ebola story back in the day, we were talking about, there was this definition called probable case. And you reach a conclusion of a probable case when you are not able to diagnose with laboratory systems. Our inability to come out boldly that this is monkeypox or it is not monkeypox is because of the laboratory capacity of the country, which I'm sure even the NCDC themselves have even complained about, that the laboratory capacity is really weak. It is the reason that the suspicion is high, because it was reached by very senior researchers and clinicians. But again, we cannot conclusively say it is it till we go in the laboratory to say, yes, this is it from the laboratory test. So definitely we can't do that. However, we don't have the opportunity of waiting till that moment before we start putting out the need to identify all suspected cases so that we can provide the required early care they need, and also start doing the epidemiology work required around those suspected cases, and also start sensitizing the population around knowing those things that they might look out for to start reporting, and then also providing the necessary prevention practices. So it is a very slim line that we need to manage properly. We have option of either saying, let us wait till the sample results come positive, then we start. If it comes back positive, how are we going to identify those people that probably have been infected?
The question would then be, why do we have to wait for a particular thing to inform people about health practices?
Right. Okay, so in terms of general, there is what we call the multi-hazard preparedness approach to outbreaks. It is indeed not about 3 months ago, there is a meeting that held in Abuja called the Joint External Evaluation, which required the World Health Organization, the CDC, Public Health England, to oversee Nigeria's evaluation of readiness to prevent, detect, and respond to multiple levels of hazards and outbreaks. Indeed, this is beyond the communicable diseases. It also involves even chemical outbreaks, like we have chemical injuries. It also involves even radiations. It even involves food and food safety issues, because you might have heard of when people drank certain poorly manufactured gins and they had issues. So this approach requires us not just to think of outbreaks when they happen. Part of the components which Dr. Ekpaye spoke about is risk communication. Risk communication is one of the 19 core capacities in the international health regulations that Nigeria has also signed up to, that we need to strengthen. And in this, the risk communication does not require us to think monkeypox or Ebola or Lassa. It requires us to think about all possible threats that we are exposed to as a country. And that means including monkeypox, including even those diseases that we've not had in a couple of years, but we know are circulating in our animals. And that is why part of it is what the concept of One Health came in. That requires us to always remember that health today is not just the problem of humans, but that's interaction of human and man. Ebola is zoonotic, Lassa fever is zoonotic, monkeypox is zoonotic. And these diseases are even part of usually the currently emerging diseases that we are dealing with. So it requires us now, if you go to Nigeria Center for Disease Control, for instance, all outbreak sessions, you always have Ministry of Agri, especially the vet doctors in the room. The Institute of Vet Research in Jos, they are also now sitting together to see there are certain diseases. Okay, avian influenza. Avian influenza, for instance, is supposed to be a bird disease, but now it could move into human population. So we need to start focusing on those animals to start seeing what is happening, and especially those ones that humans interact with very closely. The ones we eat, even the ram and cows, right? Even the sheep and the chicken and the turkey, the fish. Those are the ones that we interact with. Then this is new agric revolution. A lot of us have to go back to the farm. So people that have not been on the farm for years now,
go back.
They said that there's opportunity in agri. People are moving in, and now we need to start focus. Somebody needs to let us know what are the animals, what are the insects that are in these places.
Okay, Dr. Simon, the fact that we're even going back the agric revolution and all, he talked about the research and laboratory not being inadequate. But in practically all our high institutions, we have vet medicines. We have agricultural science departments. In fact, we have our Greek schools where they do animal science and all. We even have institutions that do research. How much of that research are we tying into our healthcare management and delivery?
Yes, that's the issue. You know, the problem is application. Many times they learn these things theoretically, but getting to the right place to apply it, it's actually a problem. For example, in Cross River right now, we have the Calabar Pharmaceutical Company, and it's the only company in Nigeria right now, pharmaceutical company, that is tied to a university on research, on students' research. So we are working with University of Competitions on research. So you can imagine that this is just starting in Nigeria. So I think that we should actually have a way of tying the theory to the practicals and then getting the equipments. Because another problem we have is equipments for the research. I'm very sure we have the skilled manpower to detect monkeypox virus in laboratories in Nigeria. But the problem, the reagents, the equipment, the consumables. But I probably think that's because it's a rare disease. So they don't have those things. It's not efficient to have kept those things from whatever year till now. So it's really rare. But since this has happened now, and I believe that in the near future, we have a recurrence, there'll definitely be something on ground.
Okay. Dr. Pai, she mentioned reagents, consumables. That means we'll still go back again to research. We have chemistry departments. We have all this research going on. The students there who sometimes spend up to 8 years doing research and all. That application, those chemicals, some of them are, what's the word to use now? They go from one stage to the other, see? They're synthesizing the chemicals and all of that. Yeah. Where do we throw all those things? Or we make one discovery, this is not what my prof wants. You throw it away and move on to the next one. My prof said he wants this white cup and this paper to merge. And then by the time I merged the two of them, I got blue inside the cup. But that's not what he said. He said it has to be green. And then the student ends up not finding out, why did it turn blue? Is it a question of lack of interest or just a question of I need to pass an exam that we have?
Well, let me help you put this thing in context.
Thank you.
And putting it in context, we shouldn't start building our house from the rooftop. Okay, before you get to a point where we need research and some sophisticated diagnostic capacity to support many of the public health conditions, particularly the emerging diseases like he had mentioned, we need to first understand the concept of diagnosis, okay, which starts and from our medical training, from knowing the symptoms, the signs, so that maybe by case definition or by clinical assessment, you're able to make diagnosis maybe accurately about 80% of the time. So that your laboratory investigation will only go to support your diagnosis. I agree with my colleagues in the studio that, of course, investment in laboratory research and all whatnot in Nigeria has not been adequate, but that is similar to investment in the broader health system. Okay, a country that has the best of time invested only 3% of the GDP on health care. And I'm sure you listened to the World Bank president in the last communication on Nigeria that has gone viral, that human capital investment has just been about 1% of the GDP in the last couple of years. Okay, so it's about input-output. And so even if you have the requirement capital in terms of the scientists, professors, researchers, who are there within our research institutions, and they do not have the required necessary inputs that will make research possible in terms of reagents. Because for monkeypox, I mean, diagnosis can be done serologically. You can have PCR, you can have electron microscopy. And of course, we don't have a single electron microscope in Nigeria. I mean, serological test, which is cheaper, is not, also very available. So the first thing to say is that beyond the researchers that we've got, and we've got quite a good numbers. Okay, we know Professor Milabu, we know everybody around in Nigeria. We've got people who have worked very well outside Nigeria. But what we need to do is that the other critical inputs that will make research possible and sustainable. And of course, that will make us as the government